Okay, hello everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and try and finish out my dissertation notes today. And at the end of this, I'm going to talk a little bit about quantum thinking. So once again, my dissertation is on conflict resolution strategies and trying to open a pathway in research to unitive leadership, and that's kind of what my study evolves around. So let's just get to my notes. Okay, competition is a basic human instinct. Therefore, conflict is normal and needed for organizational growth. However, conflict has been misunderstood because of its connection to unpleasantness in relationships and acts of war. Most people avoid or ignore a conflict with the mistaken belief that the situation will go away. In most circumstances, conflict will often escalate. Conflict can have conflict can negatively affect organizations in many ways, such as decrease productivity of staff, increase in absenteeism, turnover, and the associated costs of replacement, and poor morale. So there is the concepts focused on bridging the gap between management and coworkers, so that a culture of learning enables employees to share their skills with others, thereby building a stronger organization through integration. On the other hand, employees suffer in the bureaucratic management style because of a lack of motivation, or because of a lack of innovation and creativity. No one theory will be applicable in the evolving social system. The effects of conflict in the workplace have a minor effect on organization effectiveness. Avoiding is associated with withdrawing from the conflict and shows low concern for self and others. Leaders found that procedural justice affects job satisfaction and commitment. A voice is considered a term of allowing an individual the opportunity to express their opinions. The Delphi technique was first introduced in the 1950s by two researchers from the Rand Corporation for the U.S. Department. I don't know why that note says for the U.S. Department of Forecast Future Events and Possible Outcome Based on Inputs and Circumstances. I might have to recheck that one. I may have written that note down wrong. The most preferred method of resolving conflict in the workplace is normally through avoidance. While much research about the ADR process, especially mediation and PM in secondary, if you need to know what those initials are, they're in my first video that I did not too long ago, like a day or two ago or something like that, and PM in secondary schools. There is little language on the use of PM in the workplace as a method to resolve conflict. Okay, next one. When conflict is perceived as purely a negative or destructive process, opportunities for use are limited to problem solving. When viewed as a productive process, conflict can bind groups together, define roles, increase understanding of feelings and issues, and preserve minority rights. It can also be a gift that helps one learn to master him or herself through relationships with others. Human beings are problem seekers who, without conflict, would not survive. The value of dissent is not purely negative. It does more than protect us from error. It often points to truth. One could make a good case for that the heroes of science, the arts, and the and professions have dissenters. Left unresolved, conflict can cause low morale, repressed emotions, absenteeism, illnesses, lawsuits, accidents, and workers' compensation cases. Decreased productivity from gossip and destroyed relationships. The leader's ability to manage conflict as a catalyst for transformation is critical to the organization's survival. Today, this new breed of leaders leads people in organizations where the meaning, functions, and utility of the most accepted and revered structures practices are subject to challenge. We need to view, understand, and strengthen leadership in relation to these shifting and challenging conditions. In its simplest terms, conflict is a byproduct of growth, change, or innovation. Like change itself, it's practically inevitable, and when handled properly, can provide better communication, guarantee achieving results, and improve employee morale and productivity. Avoidance of conflict is also destructive. Energy is focused away from the task, relationship, and resentment grows. There are two basic reasons for avoidance. First, it doesn't feel good, and second, individuals are not usually prepared to deal with it. Participants lack the communication skills necessary for constructive problem solving and relationship building. It is easy to assume that conflict is negative when there is no framework to demonstrate the positive potential for conflict and the individual does not possess the skills to resolve conflict productively. The opportunity is lost. Left avoided or unresolved, conflict remains latent yet increases as the relationship continues. Society evolved from the fight reflex to coercive force and passive aggressive behaviors. Threats and intimidation may succeed in the short term, but damage interdependent relationships and set up future retaliation. Passive-aggressive behaviors include undermining support, not responding to requests, making negative comments to coworkers, etc. Flight is withdrawing or terminating the relationship. Leaving the workplace is an option. However, it does not provide the opportunity for growth. An increase in avoidance and compromising behaviors in organizations due to fear of standing out or being excluded because the majority assertions are accepted as reality. These approaches limit the potential of personal and organizational learning, healthier relationships, honest communication, and improved results. Resolution implies reduction or elimination of conflict, whereas management of conflict is a process that reduces and encourages a creative level of conflict. Conflict management theory has evolved since the mid-1990s. The traditional view of conflict in the 1930s was an undesired phenomenon. Conflict was a negative process associated with results like anger, resentment, confusion, violence, and destruction. It disrupted the smooth functioning of the organization and was avoided. A good manager's goal was to eliminate conflict altogether. Taylor, the father of scientific management, felt that if everyone abided by the rules of labor and management relations, then disagreements, compromise, and negotiations would disappear. In the late 1940s to the mid-1970s, the behavioralist approach dominated conflict theory. Conflict was seen as an inevitable part of organizations to be resolved as soon as possible since it was detrimental to the organization. Cooperation was the essence of a successful organization. Generally, peace was good and conflict was bad. Interactionists argue that conflict is not only acceptable, but should be encouraged. Long-term peace and cooperation limits an organization's creativity, innovation, and ability to change. An optimum level of conflict must be maintained for a viable, creative, and self-critical organization. Conflict management progressed from avoidance and acceptance to encouragement and stimulation. Conflict management may be seen as a continuum ranging from total destruction to complete oneness with the other. Boulding contends that much of our everyday interactions are conflict management or peacemaking, and fall in the center of that continuum, in the range of mediation, negotiation, exchange, mutual adaptation, and cooperation. It is when these strategies fail that conflict exists. There are three ways a conflict can be resolved: rights-based, power-based, and interest-based. Rights-based resolutions identify individuals' rights, and a higher authority determines whose rights prevail. In power-based relations, coercion and intimidation are used to force compliance. Both of these are adversarial procedures. In interdependent relationships, the third resolution strategy, interest-based, is the most successful in the long term since the needs of both parties are addressed in the solution. Okay, so I'm not quite sure that I'll be able to finish this today, so there might be another video tomorrow. I don't know, I'm going to try. I got 16 more pages of notes here. Oh, and two, while that I'm on it, I know that a lot of people have commented, replied to some of my videos. I'm going to get back with you, like I'll be replying back to you after I get done with this, whether that be tonight or if it's tomorrow, because I may do one more dissertation notes tomorrow. Alright, so chapter 2 notes. Not chapter 2, well, chapter 2 is my literature review, but the restatement generally holds a manufacturer liable for harm to a person or property caused by any product in a defective condition unreasonably dangerous to the user. Comment K exempts this strict liable rule. Unavoidably unsafe products. An unavoidably unsafe product is defined as a hedgehog of criteria and a few examples such as the Pasteur rabies vaccine and experimental pharmaceuticals. Despite this lack of clarity, petitioners seize upon one phrase in the Comment K analysis and assert that by 1986, a majority of courts had made this a sine qua non requirement for an unavoidably safe product. A case specific showing that the product was quite incapable of being made safer for its intended use. And that I might be able to tie somewhere in with my notes, but just reading that, I want to let you know that is why vaccines are considered an unavoidably unsafe product. So vaccines are an unsafe product. So I just want to let everybody know that. And that came from a Supreme Court case. A cornerstone in industrial relations IR theory is the idea that the potential for conflict is inherent in the employment relationship. Conflict handling by managers gives rise to significant emotional and cognitive experiences for affected employees and has far-reaching effects on the effectiveness of a group and an organization. On the other hand, the study of ethics and generally involves the examination of right, good, virtue, duty, obligation, rights, care, justice, fairness, and the greatest good in human relationships, and relationships with all living things. Leadership is about relationships, and the ethics of leadership is about how a leader exercises power through the process of hierarchical and bureaucratic management. The way leaders engage with followers is in keeping with the values of liberty, justice, and equality, and a leader's conflict management style may be important to the understanding of ethics and leadership. Emotions that arise during and after conflict events substantially influence individuals' judgments of their environment as well as their relationships. In addition, as the meaning of leadership is formed in the eyes of followers, it also makes sense to explore how leaders' behaviors are perceived by followers and not just by the leader himself or herself. Ultimately, such inaction can give rise to a perceptual gap between manager and subordinates, where the manager's non-action is perceived as avoidance. Secondly, although avoidance may be a moderate form of conflict management compared with domination, for instance, avoidance may be more frustrating and unsatisfactory for many subordinates because of its accompanying uncertainty. We will expand on this point, never mind on that. Following his claim when it comes to a manager's conflict style, we suggest that avoidance may be perceived more by subordinates than by the manager himself or herself for reasons such as power imbalance and self-bias. People higher in the ranks generally pay less attention to people with little power, and consequently may miss cues about subordinates' ongoing conflicts and feelings towards supervisors or between peers. For example, reports that most managers do not notice the impact of their teasing and bullying behavior on subordinates because subordinates tend to withdraw rather than complain about their treatment. It seems that leaders' privileges or power create situations of moral ignorance on the part of the leaders. Similarly, it is common for people to overestimate their performance, and most people want to view themselves as generally good. This self-bias or narcissistic desire may be stronger for leaders, as power often makes them forget their human limitations. In addition, most subordinates adopt an avoidance style in conflict management, and it becomes more difficult for managers to pick up situational cues of conflict. This is all the more so in situations where managers are not the perpetuators of conflict themselves, but are expected to act as references in conflict incidents within a group or a team. For instance, employees are vigilant for signs that their coworkers are obtaining undeserved benefits through rule violations, such as telling lies or taking advantage of others, and get angry in the same way as if they had received what they perceive as unfair treatment by supervisors. Therefore, irrespective of whether conflict arousal incidents are perpetuated by managers or coworkers, employees are likely to perceive both types of incident as unfair treatment if managers fail to act as gatekeepers or mediators of the justice process in a team. When managers fail to recognize conflict because of limited time and or their lack of attention to subordinates, and or the adoption of a voluntary avoidance style by subordinates, a mismatch between subordinates' expectations toward managers and managers' actual responses in conflict handling emerges. Therefore, the level of a manager's avoidance is perceived more by subordinates than by the manager himself or herself. Okay, I'm going to stop right there with my notes on that one. So let's see here. So I don't think that this will take me too long to discuss, so hopefully it doesn't. But, so, quantum thinking. So to understand quantum thinking is to understand the future, the past, and the present all happening at once. People in the Q movement have actually picked up on this. I've noticed in great detail. For me, it's kind of been with me. I know how certain things were supposed to go and things of that nature. I just didn't necessarily know a time frame. And so, and then from what I read. Because there's no time references in a way, but the pictures have always been there. And so that's where I feel like everything is going to be okay. There's going to be some chaos. Things are going to be really, really strange. This is going to be really, really weird, and I still don't know exactly how it's all pulled off. But everything's still going in the right direction. And that is basically all I can say right now, because I mean it would be just it seems insane to say what I just said, basically. But that's without knowing the knowledge, which is something that everyone, if everything does go accordingly, that something as in quantum thinking is something that you will really, really start to pay attention to, because that's how our consciousness is going to evolve. And I'm excited about it because it's not only, the kind of like the future I imagine, but I mean it's the beginning of something, and once this happens, things are going to go really fast, as in technology and things of that nature. But um, so that's basically what's going on with that. Is it basically has to do with seeing things through time, seeing things how they are, seeing things through, even things that I'm talking about right now with conflict and understanding it. It's a real depth of understanding, but just not understanding of the physical, but understanding of the illusion and understanding how it's all orchestrated. And in the final step, understanding that you have the power to create. See, you've spent all your lives allowing other people to create. You're creating another person's world. You haven't even begun to create your own world. And that's the reality that I would like to see, where everybody understands um, being a creator, how they can use their thoughts to manifest this world. And it'll just be, in my mind, beautiful. So that's kind of what that's what I've been trying to achieve for about 20 years, is to really show people this side of my mind. And because I know that if they saw, if they perceive things, if they re-taught themselves, um, or understood that everything that is right now, or that's led up to this point, has been like a lie, a show. It's all fake. The money is fake. It's a fiat system. The systems are fake because those in power are outside the system. And on top of that, they're rigging the system. And it's just not from up top to the people, what you would call in power and politics, but it goes down to businesses too, and sports as well. I mean, the NFL was owned by the mob. They're all about trying to create this structure for you to believe. And you have to believe this structure because believing in their structure makes you give your power away to them. And it makes you not a creator. It You're basically creating their world and not yours. And that's kind of where I'm going to end right there. And if anybody wants to know what it's all about, that's truly what it's all about. And being free from the whole fakeness of what humanity created, and what humanity created will always fail. We can do better than this. But you guys have a good one. Deprogram yourself, do whatever, you know, read something that you've never thought you've read before. Just do new things. Always continually do new things to provide yourself with new and different experiences. Because if you don't challenge yourself, then you'll fall victim to the same patterns of letting other people control you. So, I will see you later. Bye.